There is no secret. It's all in the work. You got to roll up your sleeves and you got to do the work. You can't do good business sitting on your backside.
Your SRN program begins in 10 seconds. Your SRN program will begin in 5, 4.
What you think and what you do in the moments, hours, days, or decades will determine whether your life is enriched or impoverished. You're listening to The Bill Wooditch Show. This is the hour where you learn more and do more on your quest to become more. And now, here's your host, Bill Wooditch.
Rocket launch! We are taking off tonight. You know, a lack of exercise predisposes us to disease. Our bodies are meant to move. We're designed to exercise, or should I say engineered. We are at the base level, machines with operating instructions written in code, the genetic code. Exercise switches on those particular genes associated with health and longevity. Those are the words of my very, very special guest tonight, Dr. Brett Osborn. Tonight's guest is a neurosurgeon. He has a physique that world-class bodybuilders would envy. As a matter of fact, I think I have abs, or at least I thought I did, but I want to trade mine in for his. In the old days, my mom used to have this washboard, it looked like, like Dr. Osborn's 8-pack. He's the author of the book, Get Serious, A Neurosurgeon's Guide to Optimal Health and Fitness. He's a parent, and apparently he redefines the word drive. Dr. Osborn, welcome to the Bill Wooditch Show.
Thanks so much for having me, Bill. I appreciate it.
Well, I have to come right out with this because you are redefining the word drive. But what is it that drives Dr. Osborn?
That's a great question. I'll tell you. I would have to say that my drive and my passion to a great degree come from my father. My father has always been my inspiration. Ever since I was a little kid, my father is a chiropractor. Came from really nothing. Had 4 offices strewn about the South Florida area here, and literally worked the hours of a surgeon. So 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, he's seeing his first patient, and never got home before 9 or 10 o'clock in the evening. So I think it's one of these things that it's sort of a nature or nurture. It's probably a little bit of both, but more so in this case nurture. Because we as parents, we have to lead by. We do lead by example, and I do it with my children, and my children see me, and working, day in and day out on various projects, medicine, and other business ventures, et cetera, et cetera. So, my girlfriend always says to me, you don't have to tell them anything because they're just going to be like you by virtue of what they see. And it's the exact same thing that happened with me, and I really think that it stems a lot from my father, and also the fact that, as you know, as is obvious, my brain is I have a very, very active brain. So, although I preach about excellent sleep hygiene, by virtue of the fact that my brain is always going, and I'm sure you have similar problems. Sleep has always been quite difficult for me. So it's a good and it's a bad thing. That's my answer for you.
You preempted the question that you knew I was going to ask you, because I had to call you at 5 in the morning on the time change. You were up ready to go, and I asked you, how much sleep do you get? And that's the only time I think that anyone has ever confounded you, because you said, and you never really answered it. So now we're just going to let that one go on to sleep, because I think both of us had that same style of that mind is always on fire, which is, I say it's a virtue. Is there, they throw this to me, it's a softball, but I have to ask you this. You gave me a lot of it. You gave me some a great starting point. But give me a little background about, you're an interesting dichotomy. Neurosurgeon and I will say world-class bodybuilding physique. Give me some background on Dr. Osborn.
Right. So the genesis of it is as follows. I had always been interested in health and human performance. Again, a lot of this stems from my dad, I would say. He was always preaching. My dad was always the guy that was taking 50, 60, 70 supplements a day growing up. And I always used to ask him, and he used to say, "This is what you have to do. You got to understand. Mainstream medicine doesn't quite understand it yet." So that type of attitude and the teaching, the holistic philosophy. I started becoming very, very interested in health and human performance. Again, at a very, very young age, started lifting weights. I think at either age 11 or 12, and then I obviously pursued a career in medicine. Early on in my residency at my neurosurgery residency at NYU, I came to the realization that the majority of the diseases that we were treating, and I think I talk a lot about this in the book, the majority of the diseases that we were treating, particularly as it relates to degenerative diseases of the spine, and to a great degree, even tumors of the brain, these diseases, not only do they have common underpinnings, but they are, to a great degree, preventable diseases. And I continued pursuing the bodybuilding the strength training. I should say, the build is simply a side effect of the strength, and the strength training. It's not a means to an end. I'm not really interested in the sport of bodybuilding, but all of these things were sort of part of my quest towards bettering myself and performing better, both in and out of the operating room, mentally, physically, and here we go. In 2014, the book, as you had said, had come out, and it's sort of I would say sort of taken on a life of its own. And here I stand now supplanting my elective neurosurgical practice with my age management practice. And the strength training has always been part and parcel, all throughout the years. And that's never going to end, because that's really the way that you not only keep your body sharp, but that's the way you keep your mind sharp as well.
Totally agree. Self-betterment is a continual quest. It's always next. It's a continual quest. We cannot. Life does not support stasis. That's the essence of Always Forward, and I think it's the essence and the purpose and the passion behind what you do. Where can I find? Where can the listener find Get Serious? It's on Amazon. What other platforms?
That's available on Amazon and all the digital publishers. Absolutely. There's also a free PDF download of the book at my website, www.drbrettosborn.com. You scroll down halfway down the home page, and you'll see a button you can click, and you can just download a PDF and read it. So either or.
Well, I read your book. I loved your book. The problem with your book is I had it blown up on my 60-inch screen, the cover of the book, and so all the women in my office just couldn't get off that cover. So I have to cut down on my on my carbs. Let me ask you this question: is there any particular patient? There's that one case that had an impact on your life that really changed it. You've done over 1,000. I read in your book 1,000 surgeries. A lot of surgery, but you're much more convicted on changing people and changing their lives so they don't have to go through surgery. But a particular patient that might stick out that really impacted your life.
That's a great question. And I do a lot of my neurosurgical practice is, I'm not going to tell you one or name one, and that's really my answer, because there are very, very many patients who stick out in my mind, people that we've really been able to change their lives, because as I had said, my neurosurgical practice, my elective neurosurgical practice, it's not gone, but I don't do a lot of it because I've sort of supplanted that with my age management practice. Mm-hmm. But my trauma patients, because we are, I'm doing exclusively neurosurgical trauma now. So all of these individuals have their own stories, and you do your best you can, to better their lives, and you take a lot and you learn a lot from them as well. So we're always learning, about how we can better our treatment, better our care. I can't tell you that there's one specifically that that sticks out, because quite frankly there are so many, and I'm not going to single out a particular individual. But suffice to say, we've had a lot of great saves. At the trauma center that I work at, which is St. Mary's in West Palm Beach, Florida here, Yeah, I'm not going to name one in particular. We've had a tremendous amount of great outcomes in the face of potential life-threatening situations, and this is something that that occurs on a weekly basis.
877-956-9566, and welcome to the dulcet tones of Kelsey McDaniel, who's with me in the studio.
Hello. Dr. Brett Osborn.
Hello.
I'm one of the women in the
Well, how are you?
office that requests that Bill keeps the cover of your book up on the screen.
It's a new screensaver. It's Kelsey's new screensaver, by the way.
Well, we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break, but Bill has some more amazing questions for you, so stick around.
All right, great open, guys.
Thank you, man.
When you think of the phrase always forward, you think of Bill Wooditch. He's a best-selling author, world-renowned speaker, and authority on leadership and performance. Bill has been hired to speak and host workshops at Fortune 500 companies, including Bank of America, AIG, Liberty Mutual Insurance Group, and Old Republic International. Fresh out of grad school, Bill began his career with only $200 to his name, a suitcase, one corduroy suit, and 2 ties. In just 2 years, he became the top salesman of a Fortune 500 company, employing over 19,000 people. He then went on to become the top producer for 2 consecutive years at the 6th largest corporate insurance broker in the world. One of his companies, the Wooditch Group, consistently generates over $100 million in sales. His secret? Always forward. His best-selling book, Always Forward, highlights a game plan for success in business and in life. Call to book Bill to speak at your upcoming event by dialing 855-841-9225. 855-841-9225. Again, that's 855-841-9225.
We're back. Dr. Brett Osborn. We ripped off a great start. He's a role model. He actually lives his truth, and he exhibits it in his body and his mind. That mind-body connection is what we strive for on this show. This show is about betterment. It's about human possibility. It's about eclipsing yesterday's, making today's standard of achievement even greater than yesterday's, and raising the bar for tomorrow. Dr. Osborn, I want to bring up I want to talk about someone who I think we have a mutual fondness for, and it's how we connected, because all things connect at some point. But Marcia Friedman is a dear friend of mine. I know she's a friend and family friend of yours. She is the CEO and founder of EMSI, a public relations firm. She's responsible for bringing me to these airwaves. As a matter of fact, she started me on about 70 or 80 radio interviews and some television work as well. It culminated and will continue with my show yesterday on Steve Harvey. I had a segment on Steve Harvey. And without Marcia, I think she's the sine qua non, the essential element that connects everything. And I know you feel the same way about her.
Yes, 100%. As I told you when we first spoke, Marcia has known. My parents are in their early 70s right now, and Marcia and her husband Steve have been friends with the family for my parents for. I mean, they grew up with my parents. Grew up with them, so 60+ years of Friedman involvement. And I will tell you that when I decided to put my thoughts down on paper. In about 2000, it was, I think, late 2012, maybe early 2013. The first, second, third, fourth, fifth, all the way out to 10 persons on my list were Marcia to call for advice. How do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? And not only did they it helped me tremendously and guided me, and Marcia and Steve put me in touch with editors, people to do the indexing of the book, people to do the printing, people to do the digital book. Not only did they do that, but they also they really launched the career. They got me on radio shows within. I don't know even know if it was a month after the book was launched. Was I sitting on the floor of this Today Show?
I saw you on there. You did great. You were great.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. It was like a whirlwind. Is basically what happened, and it was all because of them. I can't say enough, and they're great people, great family people, smart business people, astute, and I can't say enough good things about the Friedmans and their company.
Smart to a degree because she does too much for me for free. So we got to tell her, quit doing stuff. I tell Marcia, come on, stop doing things for me for free. I want to pay you. But I love her. I love Marcia Friedman, EMSI, Marcia Friedman. You say that you must take an active role. This is in your book. You must take an active role in your own health by first assuming responsibility for your actions and their potential consequences. Don't sue McDonald's, those golden arches, for your obesity, and don't blame Philip Morris for you being stricken with lung cancer. You, in caps, are in control, no one else. Here's the fundamental truth, and here's the slippery slope called personal responsibility. That's all about personal responsibility. How frustrated are you with trying to get that message out there and people actually not listening to that message?
Oh, it's really one of my pet peeves, and I'm not going to get into a political discussion or commentary here, but one of the things that I always say to my patients, and this is quite the opposite, has been fostered or in fact nurtured in the culture today, is that health is not a right. Health is a privilege. Okay, and people look at me when I say that, and they can't believe that I say that, but it's not.
Great point.
It's a privilege. You have to chase after health. It's not something that you are entitled to. And we live in an entitlement, in an entitled society, as you know.
Bang.
Completely. So if you don't chase it down, if you don't assume responsibility, if you don't make the correct decisions in the context of your health, it will evade you, period. You've got to arm yourself with the knowledge, and then from the knowledge, then you execute. Health is not a right. It is a privilege, period.
Let's talk about knowledge. There is so much information out there. How do I, the average Joe, how do I cut through all the BS that's out there and find something that's right for me?
Right, and that's a great question, and one that I'm asked all the time. And my suggestion is that you read. Okay, it's the exact same way that I amassed my knowledge of this, because I'm going to tell you that this stuff, unfortunately, is not taught in medical school. It's not taught in medical school. It will be, but it's not.
Right.
And so what you have to do is you have to read, and you're going to read good sources and you're going to read bad sources. You're going to talk to people. You're going to find out what they've read, okay? And you're going to continue. And the things that you see commonly repeated. Ultimately, you will develop your filtering system, if you will, or your knowledge cache, and you're going to move forward with that knowledge. So that's how you arm yourself with the knowledge. Because I'm going to tell you, the information changes constantly. It really does. And there's more and more. It's sort of like Moore's law with computers. The same exact thing goes for science. So we're learning, and the stuff that you knew 10 years ago, or that you thought you knew 10 years ago, is now different, has now changed. So it's a constant evolution, and you just need to keep reading, and common themes and common concepts will ultimately be borne out. So as an example, I didn't know any of this stuff when I was going through medical school. I didn't know any of this stuff when I was going through residency. I learned it after. You had some sort of inclination. You started saying, well, wait a minute, these individuals who are developing bad coronary artery disease, those people also oftentimes have gingival disease, so disease of the gums. Why? Well, because they're both inflammatory diseases. And if there's inflammation in one area of the body, then there's inflammation in the other areas of the body, including the brain and the heart. So then you're starting to realize, hey, inflammation must be something. Then you read more articles, inflammation, and they're constantly talking about inflammation and harping on this stuff, omega-3s, aspirin, et cetera. And then you also start reading things about diabetes and the pre-diabetic state, the insulin-resistant state, and you're starting to realize, well, wait a minute, all of these diseases, cancer, diabetes, heart attack, stroke, Alzheimer's disease, they're really the same disease. They just have, and because they have these very, very common underpinnings. And then what you're doing is you're looking at all of your therapies, some natural, some medicinal, and you're saying, okay, is this an anti-inflammatory? Does this reduce my chances of developing a pre-diabetic state? Does it improve my insulin sensitivity? Well, then those must be medications or nutraceuticals or supplements, whatever you want to call them, that probably protect you against all of these diseases.
All right, let me ask you
so
this.
That's a circuitous answer, but the bottom line is that you just have to keep reading. You can't expect it, and this is what happens with my patients, you can't expect it to be fed to you.
Right.
You need to feed yourself from a variety of sources, and ultimately you will sort of come up with your own gestalt, which is going to be very, very similar to mine and to yours, Bill's.
What food groups, what causes, because I want to come down to the street, what causes inflammation? What food?
Right. So two big ones. Carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates. Okay, so the high glycemic index carbohydrates, we can go back and forth.
Explain simple versus complex. Go simple, complex.
But I would just say things that are the sugary foods.
Yeah.
Okay, so foods that have glycemic indices more than 55 is sort of the classic definition.
White rice,
I
white
don't
bread.
buy that. I tell my patients I want everybody less than 40. So that's a big one, particularly in society today. Okay, overconsumption of simple carbohydrates. Second would be the inflammatory fats. So the fats that are in, as an example, Dunkin' Donuts, Krispy Kreme, et cetera, et cetera. I don't know if I should be mentioning names, but those are the inflammatory fats. The trans fats, not so much the saturated fats, okay, but the trans fats are the really, really bad ones. And those are two big ones. But you can say that, well, lack of exercise and being sedentary causes a pro-inflammatory state as well. So a variety of things cause inflammation. But from the standpoint of foods, high glycemic index carbohydrates and the inflammatory fats.
What does your daily diet look like?
My daily diet looks like the following. I typically will try to, and I eat basically the way I tell my patients to eat. So I try to push my protein up to about a gram per pound per day of lean body mass. So that's your body weight minus your fat mass. So if you know your body weight, and you know your body fat percentage, you can figure that out. And then I'll typically have somewhere between 75 and 100 grams of carbohydrates a day. And again, I try to keep them low glycemic index, so less than 40. And then I'll fill the rest of my basal metabolic rate up, my calculated metabolic rate up with fat as a macronutrient. So you're talking maybe about 100 grams of fat. I'm pretty aggressive with eating fat. So if you want to go through what I eat specifically, proteins would be some meat, protein powder, protein bar. My carbohydrates would be vegetable-based carbohydrates, and then my fats would come from nuts, oils such as olive oil, coconut oil. I would say those are the big ones. I'm not really much of a fan of avocados, but those are great sources of fat.
Red meat?
Uh-huh. I like red meat. I don't eat it very often, but I don't have any issue with a lean piece of red meat. Remember, it's not the lean piece of red meat that makes you fat. It's not the filet mignon that makes you fat. It's the baked potato that you're having with the filet mignon that will kill you.
So I can't have butter on that thing? Come on, some chives, man.
You can have butter on it. You just can't have. You can absolutely have butter. You can't have butter on your baked potato, though.
Let me ask you a question. No, not the baked potato. No,
if you want, like they make it Peter Luger's.
You want a sweet potato too, but a real sweet potato. Let me ask you about supplements, because my mother told me this when I was young. She said,
Sure.
Billy, you take so much supplement, all you do is you have the most expensive urine in town. All right? So I was all going through. What are the basic supplements I should take?
Right. Okay, and that's a great question, and one I'm asked very, very often. In the book, there's a sort of a top 10 list of supplements that I think are the best supplements, but that's something that's very much debatable, depending upon who you ask. When my patients leave my office, so my age management patients come in, and they leave my office with a certain prescription of say it's medications and diet and strength training, et cetera, et cetera. They also go home with pretty much 4 or 5 supplements, including a probiotic, omega-3 fatty acids, a B complex, vitamin D3, and those are usually the 4. And then if I have somebody who's struggling with weight loss, a lot of them are, then I may throw in something that is a chromium or a berberine based product to improve their insulin sensitivity. But the list can go, the list can go on and on. I mean, I don't have any in my top 10. We're talking resveratrol is in there, there's magnesium that's in there, green tea's in there, and a vitamin E. Those are really my top 9 or 10.
I get my resveratrol from red wine, so that's right. I could drink about you have to drink about 100 bottles though to get what calcium.
Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, hey, we're going to a break. Tweet us at Wooditch Network on Twitter. Ask us some questions.
Call us. Dr. Osborn, don't go away.
All right, great work, guys. He's on standby.
ask, where can we find you? Welcome back. The Bill Wooditch Show. Fascinating guest. Dr. Brett Osborn. This has been a wild ride. We're going to continue this ride. But what do we have on the Wooditch Network?
We have amazing hosts on the Wooditch Network. If you are near the computer, why don't you check out thewooditchnetwork.com. You can see the rest of Bill's shows. We also have other great hosts like Pete the Planner. He was on your show previously. Now he has his own show, the Pete the Planner
Johnny
Show.
Johnny
Wimbrey, Julie Gordon-White, personal favorite.
Fantastic.
So yeah, we do shows every week. We do live shows on Monday mornings at 8:30 a.m. PST.
Millennial Mondays.
I will be on it with the one and the only Chris Zender from the Wooditch Group.
Unstoppables on Wednesday, 8:30, and that's the Wooditch Network. It's spelled like it sounds, WOODITCH, Wooditch Network. Go check it out, wooditchnetwork.com. Dr. Osborn, welcome back.
Thank you.
I want to say something that I think is very important about role models, because what's sticking in my mind as we talk, and it's the role model. The role model that your father was for you, the role model you now are, not only to your family, but to those people who are in contact with you. You know, they look at you and they're going to ask you, what do you do? How do I get there? And they're, at that point, you can give encouragement, but people have to do their own push-ups, literally and figuratively, so you can't give them that. But I want to compare something with you. In my office, I started out by making my own protein shakes, right? And I got into kale, spinach, a little bit of blueberries, but mostly a lot of whole leafy greens. And people would look at me with this nauseous look, like, "Oh, I can't do that." So all of a sudden, there became these acolytes where I started to get 7, 8, 9 people that would line up for these shakes. And the product, let me tell you, is very expensive. I wish I could market that, but I couldn't. It's just too expensive. What is in your shake?
Yeah. So I keep it very, very simple. I'm not one of these guys who goes wild with all sorts of ingredients. I use I'll put in something like a vanilla protein shake, low carbohydrate. I'll throw some nuts in there, or I'll use powdered peanut butter. But other than that, I really don't make these very, very extravagant shakes with all sorts of vegetables, et cetera, et cetera. What I do, though, is every single day I drink a lot of V8 juice. So I drink the low-sodium V8. A lot of people can't stomach it because they like the salty taste. But sort of that's my what do you want to call it? My vegetable smoothie, and it's made for me. So I don't I'm not at home here doing this, or nor at work. At work, I do sell supplements out of the office, so it's very, very easy for me to just dump a bunch of protein powder into the blender there real quick, and between patients, I'm taking down the protein shake. So I keep it pretty simple.
Kelsey, put that on order for Amazon. Give me a case of V8 juice, low sodium, by the way.
Of course.
Where is your office? Tell me about your office, your practice. Where can people find you? And then I want to jump into hormone replacement therapy. So we're going to dive into two things. Where can we find you? And let's talk about the HRT.
Absolutely. So my practice is located in Jupiter, Florida. So that's a little bit north of West Palm Beach, and it's east, so it's towards the beach. Basically, my practice is as follows. As I had said, I really supplanted my neurosurgical practice with my age management practice. So out of the office there, I'm seeing very, very few neurosurgical patients and mostly age management practice, mostly age management patients. And basically what we're doing there is we are doing a comprehensive assessment of risk factors for disease, biomarkers for disease, et cetera, et cetera. We do body anthropometric measurements via a scale, so we can tell patient's BMR, patient's skeletal muscle mass, a patient's body fat percentage, et cetera, et cetera. And that information is delivered to us via this fancy scale. We also do echocardiograms in the office. We do carotid artery ultrasounds, femoral artery ultrasounds. We do cognitive testing. We do impact testing there for individuals that are involved with impact sports. And then we look at individuals' labs. And then based upon all of that data, or what I really call the zeros and the ones, from a variety of sources, we come up with a customized, individualized, personalized plan for that individual. Now, that includes a strength training regimen which is basically the regimen that's in the back of the book, is the appendix of the book of Get Serious. And there may be some modifications depending upon whether or not somebody's had some pre-existing conditions, injuries, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody leaves with a macronutrient-based nutrition plan, which is plugged into, it's entered prior to their leaving the office into the MyFitnessPal application, which is basically a macronutrient counter. So there's some accountability there. They leave with supplements. They leave with a variety of medications, often which include hormones. So through this very, very sort of comprehensive assessment, we can make, we can deliver to the individual a comprehensive plan for life. And come next year, we are, because there is a void in the practice, and that's really the accountability/commitment component, as you had alluded to previously. How do you encourage an individual to follow through and stick with these plans? And that's a big problem in these practices, and that's why a lot of them fail. And so come Q1 next year, we're due to open up a fairly large, I'll call it the proving grounds, a facility which is going to basically nudge people further, if you will, into that, whatever you want to call it, that commitment level, so they become habituated to exercise. And one of my colleagues, actually two of my colleagues, both of them are former Navy SEALs, are going to be running the show over there. So you're going to be getting the text at 5:30 in the morning, the knock on the door. Where are you? How come you're not over here training? Well, you have an appointment.
You're going to be up.
So
You've been up for 4 hours.
One of these,
You've already been up for 4 hours. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
That's lunch for you, man. That's lunch.
That's exactly right. So that, I think, is going to really close the loop. Right now, we do have that void in the practices, as do the vast, vast, vast majority of these practices. I'm not sure that there's any other practice out there that actually has such a level of enforcement, if you will, that I think is really going to close the loop and really guarantee results. Because the results are spectacular now, but they can be even better.
Let's dive deeper. What type of hormones are we talking about?
Right. So that depends upon an individual's symptoms and combined with their laboratory
studies. But it could be testosterone, right? It could be testosterone.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so we
sure.
listen to patients, and so this includes this applies to both males and females. Males, we're looking typically at testosterone and estrogen or estradiol levels, but also some pro-hormones such as DHEA are used intermittently. And women, we're talking about testosterone, progesterone, and managing their estrogens as well. And there are a variety of symptoms that individuals are listeners are, I'm sure, familiar with in the context of testosterone. Those being fatigue, brain fog in the afternoon, loss of libido, loss of skeletal muscle mass, no drive or motivation to go to the gym, lack of focus. And then those are really the testosterone attributable symptoms. And then you have some other ones, that are more progesterone and estrogen related that we deal with women, whether it's headaches, sleep disturbances, abnormal menses, abnormal bleeding. Sometimes individuals are having hot flashes when they're premenopausal, et cetera, et cetera. So you really have to listen closely to the patient. And then you come up with a personalized prescription plan of not only hormones but other medications as well.
So the first thing a listener hears, they hear testosterone, they think, I'm going to lose my hair. I'm going to there's going to have all these different conditions for me. It's going to cause cancer. But under the care of a physician, under the quality care of a physician, those things are it's really not a big deal, is it?
Right. Okay. So the prostate issue of testosterone causes cancer. Well, let me tell you that study that sort of changed medicine, if you will, and we're still fighting it to this day, came out about 70 years ago. And do you know how many patients were in that study cohort?
How many?
One.
You gotta be
one.
kidding me.
It has been proven. It is defunct. It has been debunked. It does not cause cancer. Testosterone does not cause prostate cancer. It does not. And there are some, in fact, urologists, I'm not going to mention any names, who are very, very they're well-researched individuals, let's put it that way. They do the research, and they actually have patients that have prostate cancer that they have on testosterone. They're just very, very closely monitored. And because by depriving these individuals of testosterone after they are diagnosed with prostate cancer is really stripping their virility away from them. So in treated patients with treated patients with prostate cancer, you can actually put them on testosterone or keep them on testosterone and not strip them of their virility, of their manhood. Because classically, historically, the treatment for prostate cancer has been a medication such as Lupron or orchiectomy, where actually
Dr. Brett, we got to take a break.
Yes.
Let me just interrupt you really quick. We're going to take a break, but we want to come back to this. Stick around.
Don't go away.
It's time for you to turn your intention into dollars. It's time for you to join the home for the unstoppables, the Wooditch Network. The WooditchNetwork.com is the place where you'll find profitable success strategies for business, finance, and life. Our exclusive show hosts and course instructors cover every topic you need to create lasting, fulfilling wealth. You will experience passionate, powerful, and provocative live shows every week on the WooditchNetwork.com. The Wooditch Network is your resource for moving forward, always forward, toward the career you want to have, the life you want to live, and the dollar amount you are determined to make.
Welcome back to Bill Wooditch, the Bill Wooditch Show. Today we have Dr. Brett Osborn. He's generously given us his time, which he does not have much of. He is a top neurosurgeon, anti-aging specialist. Let me ask you a question, Dr. Osborn. I've been dying to ask you this question, as a matter of fact. Well, not actually dying, but it's been bugging me. Is there define anti-aging? It seems to me like it's a kind of a dichotomy. There's no such thing as anti-aging. There's just extending a quality of life. So tell me what anti-aging means.
And we try to have. That's a great question. We're trying to get away from anti-aging because it sounds like anti-death, right?
Right.
So we're moving towards. I call it age management. And basically what we're doing is, as I had explained previously, is we are trying to identify on a personal or I would say a personal level, what are your biomarkers for disease? So whether or not there's excess inflammation in the body, whether you've developed a pre-diabetic state, so-called insulin resistance, if you will, whether you have low vitamins, whether you have low hormone levels, all of these things are associated with the aging process. Now, while we can't stop the aging process per se, we can certainly thwart those diseases, the development of those diseases that are thought to be age-related. So those diseases that will occur by virtue of the fact that we are standing on this earth for 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Because let's face it, if you or I are standing on this earth at 150 years of age, absent technology, so we just happen to live that long, we're going to both have Alzheimer's disease. It's a degenerative disease. All of these diseases, all of these age-related diseases are degenerative in nature. They occur over time due to damage. So what we're trying to do is identify those biomarkers that are damaging your body quicker than they should be, and we're squelching them, or we're driving those numbers down in the case of inflammatory markers or in the case of one's insulin resistance, and those numbers associated with, say, hormones, we're trying to optimize those symphony of hormones. So that's progesterone, estrogen, testosterone, and thyroid, to name a few. So we're trying to make the milieu of somebody who's 21. Does that make sense?
That's the environment for those people who don't have a thesaurus. So yes, no, I got it. Let me ask you this question. You can't not use this in plural. I know where you're going to go. Give me your defining moment in life. You can't say moments. I know you've had a few. What's your defining moment?
My defining moment in life.
I knew that was going to stop you. I just knew it.
Moment. That is going to.
I know it's being on my show. I know.
Hard.
It's being on my show, of course.
Yes, of course.
Race
Bill, I took a rain check on that question.
You know what? I'm going to make you feel good. I'm going to make you feel better. Everyone trips on that one. I know, and it's not me. I'm not trying to trip you. I'm just trying to give you what did you define? I'm not trying to do that. But people are, what is my one defining moment? So we can slip. Let me ask you this, and we'll get back to that, all right? What is next for you? And I don't mean you're going to Maryland tomorrow. What is next for you in your career?
Okay, and that's a question that again I had hinted about before. What we're trying to do is we are trying to develop this comprehensive practice venture, if you will, that really is going to, I think, it's really going to be the paradigm for the way medicine is going to be in the future. And that is that an individual will come down with a specific goal, whether it's to lose weight, just be more healthy in general, put muscle mass on, and we sort of have a black box strategy where we turn some dials based upon their individual data, and take the data as it exists and drive that data towards the data, if you will, or the profile, if you will, of their individual that they want to be. Okay, and the thing about it is that we can do that. So it's like the $6 Million Man. You know, we have the technology. We really do. So I want listeners to understand that disease, the way I see it, is different than mainstream medicine is now treating it, which is in a sort of a retrospective, retroactive, sort of using a retroactive or chase-after approach. We are trying to treat the disease markers, the biomarkers of disease, preemptively. So in that regard, we can really create an individual who's using medical technology. Notice I didn't say medicine or drugs. I don't like those words. Medical technology to make you a better you. Not wait for a disease and then start chasing after and saying, oh, my God, I should have done this before. No. We want to be able to drive an individual. I'm not going to use the word superhuman. We will start seeing that term probably more and more often in the next 10, 15, 20 years. But we believe that we can make an individual better. And we use medical technology to do that. And this facility is sort of closing the loop in my practice, and hopefully will allow us to really, really, really drive individuals towards that betterment. So that's where I think my next 3 to 5 years are going to be spent perfecting this practice.
Speaking of superhumans, check out his book. He's Dr. Brett Osborn. Check out the cover. It's called Get Serious. Got a lot of good stars on Amazon. It's got really, really great reviews. I enjoyed that book immensely, benefited from it. It's a no BS approach. It's very practical application. You can start right now and become a better version of you. And isn't that what we really all strive for? It's what we strive for on the show, is to become better tomorrow. And we have to do the work. We have to get down. We have to break our nails. Sometimes it's going to get dirty. It's going to get hard. Yeah, it is. And we're going to be in the dark, and we're going to have naysayers pulling against us. But you know what? We got to have that voice. And Dr. Osborn is one of those voices. You've been fantastic, but I got to ask you this before you go. What is your definition of success?
You ask difficult questions, I'll tell you. You do ask difficult questions. I would say my definition of success, and this goes back to the forward of the dedication in the book. This is probably going to be different than what other people have said, but my definition of success is when my kids grow up and in every way, by every definition, all three of my kids do better than I did.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful. How that is a bar I can't even imagine seeing from here. So that's a high bar. That's a high bar.
They'll do it. Well, they're on their way.
And you know, it depends on how you define the word better as well. And so everything is found in the definition of the words, and that's how we get context and meaning for conversation. If you had to give one thing or two things, I'll let you go with this, 2 or 3, that we may have missed, give the audience something they can take now and apply, or anything that we didn't cover that you really want to hit.
Well, I think I'm just going to reiterate the big points here. The big points are that you are in control. Okay? That's number one. Educate yourself. Arm yourself with knowledge. Become an educated patient. Ask your doctor, many of whom are gray-haired and have a stethoscope. I have neither, as you know. Neurosurgeons don't use stethoscopes. Poke and prod, ask questions, be involved with your medical care. And if you're not satisfied because he or she is practicing, we call it reactive medicine instead of preventive and predictive medicine, find yourself a new doctor. Find yourself a forward-thinking doctor. Also, please do not think that these diseases that we're all stricken with you're destined to develop them. Not true. Okay, 80 to 85% of cancers are thought to be environmental. Again, the majority of these age-related diseases are degenerative in nature, and they're underpinned by just a couple of things.
As opposed to genetics, correct? As opposed to genes.
Correct.
Right.
Okay, and I will leave it with this. Insulin resistance, so you're eating too many simple carbohydrates, and inflammation. So if you're going to take a couple of supplements, and this is something that I want to sort of end with. Get on the omega-3s. Get on the aspirin, okay, the low-dose aspirin, if you have no contraindications to that. And, of course, you have to discuss these things with your doctor. Make sure your vitamin D3 level is good because that's a cancer chemopreventative agent unto itself. Get on the B vitamins and make sure you're taking a probiotic. Okay, those are I would say the 5 things. Okay, because what you're doing there is you are squelching across or through a sort of a multi-tiered attack inflammation. Exercise. Make sure your exercise is integrated into your daily regimen, and also keep your consumption of the simple or the high glycemic index carbohydrates low, and lots of fats. And that's it. It's very, very, very simple. Those things will do wonders for your health, more so than any medication your doctor's going to put you on in a reactive manner.
We're going to take this interview and we're going to send it. It's going to go viral, and I'm going to keep on posting it because I think the stuff you're saying. I think what you're saying is so vital, and I think what you're saying sounds to us, and I think me and you, like a lot of common sense.
Yes.
But for us, it's a way of life. And for others, I think if you adopt it, embrace it, just start and really understand and get the feeling. There's an endorphin rush. There's that whole feeling of satisfaction and achievement. And I think that we can't. I always say that we have to be able to cash with our body those checks we write with our mind. And we've got to be physical. We've got to get engaged, man. We've got to get in this game of life, and we've got to take care of our franchise. And our franchise is right. It's that vessel, the body and the mind. Right,
Absolutely.
Kelsey?
Absolutely.
I want to call you after the show because you were fantastic. And I'm going to come out and work out with you, but I got to get, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm ready for you except I have a cold. So
2 minutes.
I'll make sure I have my SEAL buddies here when you come.
Oh, man, no, man. I just want you. But I'm going to come out.
Yeah.
I'm coming out to visit you in Florida, and I think it's going to be fantastic, although I do require about 6 hours of sleep, okay? It's about 3 more than you. Thank you, Dr. Osborn. You were fantastic.
Bill, thank you. You were an inspiration. I do appreciate it.
Likewise. I'll see you in FLA. Thanks, sir.
Yes. Thanks.
Kelsey, he was great.
Absolutely.
He was great. I want to talk about your show because I know you don't want to talk about your show, but it's Millennial Monday, and Kelsey McD, she's right here. Kelsey McDaniel is going to be hosting the show along with, she's going to be co-host with Chris Zender. And between the two of them, there is going to be Original Thought. There's going to be some it's millennial stuff. It's not beyond my comprehension, but sometimes it just blows me away. So I will be in there to watch part of it, but I'm going to let them just fly with that stuff. And then at 8:30, it's 8:30 on Monday,
yes.
Right? Pacific. That's a.m. Pacific Standard Time. You want to check that out, and you want to get on the Unstoppables with me.
Yeah, the Unstoppables on Wednesday at
8:30
also.
8:30 on Wednesday, and I just came back from Washington D.C. I have a cold. But I had to do my show, The Unstoppables, and I said, how can I have a show, Unstoppables, if I was stoppable? Cold's a weak person's limp, right? It's a condition.
I'll get you some V8.
Get through that stuff. That's some V8. I want the V8. It's got to get low sodium. Dr. Brett Osborn, fantastic. Check him out. Seriously. See you next week.